So you're the man behind West Africa's largest photo library collection, not so?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Paul Nison, a photographer and a filmmaker at first. And I'm the founder and executive director of Dikan Center. And also by virtue of my position, I also work as the curator for the Dikan Gallery as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So you run two entities, Dikan Center and then the Dikan Gallery.
No, it's a one entity.
It's one entity.
Yeah, but the Dikan Gallery, the Dikan Library, all are components of the Dikan Center.
Okay. Well, that's building a large library like this, specialized solely for photography, is not a small feat. How did that come by?
So I go back to my sources, right? When we were growing up, we didn't have television. So it was all about reading. My parents were very heavy on reading. My dad is a stand reader, right? So, and that was the interest where books came into being. So when I became a photographer, I was constantly looking for books to read, to better myself, to seek knowledge. I'm always learning. So that was the entry. So when I went to US to study, I realized that is what we lack here. When someone wants to start his career as a visual artist, there wasn't much resources available. So that was the beginning to look for photography books and visual books. So now we have even more than photography books here as well. We have books on history, literature, on photography. We have filmmaking books. We have curatorial books and reading books on photography, archives, and all that here.
If somebody told you 10 years ago you'd be here today, what would you say to the person?
You're a liar.
Why?
It's not possible.
Okay. What did you want to be 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I had a company where printing T-shirts and graphic design works.
Okay.
So that was my trajectory.
Okay. Right? In Accra or Kumasi?
In Kumasi.
In Kumasi.
I studied textiles, industrial art, in tech.
Oh, nice.
So, I was designing cloth for some of the companies, African Print, for some of the secondary schools, So my trajectory was, to have a company, run it and, just do that. I never had a dream of becoming head of Dikan Center. It wasn't something I thought it could happen.
All right. But so life took an unconventional path and led you here.
Because so I became a photographer. Take it back. I bought my first camera 6 years ago.
That was after you had studied textiles?
After I studied textiles.
Okay.
Right. And still, the work I was doing, I wasn't fulfilled. I'm a creative at heart. Right. I used to draw. People don't know that.
Okay.
I used to draw a lot. Right. I used to paint. Right. So I didn't have much of a medium aside that to express myself. And that's where I had a chance to experience what photography can do. So then whilst I was still working, I always had at the back of my mind that, what if I work with a camera, become a photographer. In the beginning it was also a path of survival, right? To survive and to express myself.
Okay.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning. Survival, you needed the extra income as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what led you to get a first camera?
Yes.
What camera was it?
I remember very well. It was it was Canon T3i.
Oh, nice. That's the entry level. Yes. That's almost everybody's.
Yes. Actually,
first DSLR.
Yes, it was Canon T3i. I sold my iPhone and saved some money and bought it. And a dear friend of mine who now works at Tony Blair Institute sent the money to her, bought it from in Bronx, then brought it to Ghana. So I met her at Cafe Kwai.
Yes.
And took the camera. And that was one of my happiest days in my life. And I walked all the way from that place to Usu.
Just taking photos.
Taking pictures. And I had come from Kumasi.
Same day.
Same day, because I was waiting for the camera to come. I had sold my iPhone, so it was all in.
Yeah.
And before that, I had always been studying photography. I was studying like a PhD student, right? Okay. So when I picked the camera, I knew so much. So that made my career at photography faster.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's dial it down. What kind of childhood did Paul have?
Oh, I had a very wonderful childhood. We were living in a new site in Kumasi. It was just us, my family, and a few people living by. We had a farm, you know, and my parents are Stanton Christians, so it was always given. They were always given, you know.
Would you say that's where the philanthropic nature started from?
Yes. Yes, my parents always built the house such a way that we could give. We didn't have much, but it was always the spirit of giving. When we were going to church, we had goats, sheep, right? And then my parents would prepare some and would share among the church members. You know, on Sunday after church, we host people or we go visit people. You know, my mom used to make my favorite jollof with goat meat.
Oh,
and
nice.
all the neighborhood kids will come, and so that was the beginning of it. And my parents are always, they're Christians, so they used Bible verses, memory verses to, you know, instill that discipline of giving. I never had a room to myself because the room was always a room where we hosting people, we sharing with other people. So I think growing up was always about giving
back to society.
Giving back to society, and they made it not in a form of giving back to society. They made it more of a habit, right? So my parents always will talk about the givers never lack, the givers never lack, right? And sometimes I didn't understand, even in the context, like we're not rich, so like why are you always giving, right? You know. So that was how I grew up. It was beautiful. I had a wonderful childhood. We didn't have electricity for some time because we moved to a new site.
Okay.
So when we had electricity, my parents decided not to buy a television. So it was always reading.
And spending most of your days outside.
Most of the days outside the house, you know, playing. And then also my grandparents used to come live with us. And that is where the storytelling bit came from. My grandparents were traditional, they come from a royal home. So they used to tell us stories. My grandparents thought passing on those information, oral history to me and my siblings is the way to pass on tradition from generation to their generation. But I think they felt I was the one who was paying much attention to and asking more questions, you know, and reflecting. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away, and he had so much influence in me. You know, he was also a strong giver, right? So my childhood was basically, and on Saturdays, my dad used to, even still, he does preach the gospel, evangelism, not in a church way, but just sharing the gospel with other people. And on Saturday morning, he had a Bible, which was called Good Bar, and I'll hang out with him. Right, and then when he's speaking the gospel, he would ask for memory verse, and I'll be the one opening it up. And that Bible was dear to me because when we're going to church, I get to hold it. On Saturday morning, when he goes to gospel preaching, I get to hold it. You know, so that was really something which really made a huge influence in my life, and still is influencing me even today, even with my team. You know, the things we do. You know, this morning we welcomed the first cohort of full-time program here, and we prayed. We spent time together. We were very religious in very keeping of our faith in that sense. So for me, that has been my childhood experience and how I grew up.
You know why I asked you about your childhood? Because we as adults, sometimes we underestimate what kind of experience being a child contributes to the path that you're on. When you go into an adult. It's only when you get through this stage that you look back on your past, either fondly or not. But either way, it plays a large role in who you get to be. We underestimate how much of an influence our childhood has on us. It's only after we've gone through the adult stage that we look back and then we get to appreciate it. That's why I asked you this. So would your family, you're in touch with them, right? Are they surprised at how things turn out for you?
No. My mom not. My dad, sometimes he tries to adjust because I'm an introvert.
Okay.
So sometimes when he sees me on TV, he wonders like, what
are you doing?
It's like, how did you get there? right? How are you able to articulate some of these things, right? I'm introvert, like so much that when I'm done, I go home and that's it, right? Sometimes it's because of the vision that I'm on TV or speaking to people and doing this, right? And also sharing my story so that people to be able to be inspired and people also be able to do the things they love to do, but they've not had the opportunity to do. My mother, no. My mother, even when I was a kid, he used to prophesy in some of these things because he knew what I could do in the house. He knew how hardworking I was, and she knew how vision-driven and purpose-driven I was in some of the things I do. And she always, you know, how they talk about Paul Amantam. As well as Dikan Center. So when I was a kid, they used to play those words, you know, Paul Amantam. So those words used to.
I think for those who don't speak the local parlance, I think if my translation is right, it means that Paul was part of the Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
He didn't start the evangelism early.
Yes.
But then compared to some of those who started and fell off the road,
exactly,
Paul made much of a bigger impact.
Yes.
And the way he preached the gospel. Yes.
Yeah. So my mom always used to say that. So I think it made me confident in my abilities and things I could do, you know, and so when I set my heart and my time and my resources into things I'm passionate about, I go all in. I'm very competitive too.
So we spoke about passion and how it plays a large role in what you do. What are some of the things you're passionate about?
Family, people, storytelling, God. Can we dive into that? That's interesting. The reason why I'm asking that is some people are more religious than spiritual. And then we have some who are very spiritual than religious. So what does your faith mean to you? It means a lot. I won't be here without God. That's all. My life is a testimony of who God is and what He's capable of doing. You know, if you knew me 10 years ago, you never thought I could be here, right? And that's why I don't take my faith for granted. I'm not perfect, born sinner, but my faith, I'm very spiritual. I'm not so much of a religious person. I'm very, very spiritual. My goal in life is to have a strong relationship with God.
Okay.
My goal in life is
strong personal relationship.
Personal relationship with God. My goal in life is to be like Him in life and in nature, but not in the Godhead, you know, specifically. So everything I do, because TJ, at the end of the day, where we go, 6 feet. You know, I don't care about awards. I don't care about prestige. I don't care about name on the wall. It means nothing to me. I truly care. When I'm gone, I'm gone. That's it. I don't care about what happens again. Wherever you put me, that's your problem. You know, but what I care about is the life I have here. Yeah. How do I make impact in people's life? You know, sometimes when we talk about impact, people, you know, just talk about just the other side, the non-spiritual side, and some also talk about the spiritual side. But even with what I'm doing here, it's spiritual in its sense, right? To be able to sacrifice a lot to build a place for people, if you don't have the element of God in you, I don't think you can do that.
When, if you don't mind me asking this, when was the last time you saw evidently God's hand in your life?
This morning.
Okay.
This morning. You know, because when the 10th student came in this morning, that's talking about the full-time program.
The full-time program the center is running?
The center is running.
For
photographers, photojournalists and documentary photographers.
Okay.
That this morning, I really realized that God is faithful. God is really indeed faithful. Because TJ, if you look at 6 years ago, when I sold my iPhone to buy a camera, all the experience I've gone through, all the personal experience, all the challenges, all the struggles I went through, today has been a manifestation of them. because sometimes the Lord wants to take you through certain situations so that you can do things.
Okay.
You know, I built this institution by my experience. You know, I built this institution for the Paul Nisons of 2016 who was desperately looking for a place just to land.
The reason why I'm asking you that is following your trajectory. I remember you going through the Humans of New York post that went very viral.
Mm-hmm.
But what struck me about that is it happened to you. It could have happened to so many other people.
Mm-hmm.
New York City is what? How many million people who live there?
I think it's 8.5.
8.5. And then out of 8.5, it was Paul Nison from Ghana who was picked.
Mm-hmm.
Some may call it luck, some may call it destiny.
Nah.
But you call it what?
The faithfulness of God. Because even Brandon and I talk about this.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know the behind the scenes, and I keep it like that. Brandon and I agree 100%.
Just for
Brandon, Humans of New York.
Yes, so Brandon
Stanton,
brands, yes,
the Humans of
New York.
Yes.
He's a publisher, he's a photographer, he's a activist, filmmaker. He does so many things.
He does so many things. And both of us talk about our journey, our spiritual journey. And
he also identifies as Christian?
Yes, now. Back then he wasn't.
He wasn't, okay.
You know, he was just meh. You know, he had his own
There's
thing.
a name for it, I can't remember. I think I'm gonna stick or has something.
Yeah, he didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
But guess what? Our lives came together. And today we're best friends. He's like my brother now, right? And we've seen what both of us, our lives has been used by God to help each other. My faith robbed of him. And his discipline and giving and all that brought me to where I am. So even today when we're talking about how God has been faithful to both of us. When we're talking, we're surprised how the Lord's sovereign arrangement has arranged certain situations for us to meet together and be who we are. And now, he's my brother.
But here's the thing about what you're saying is very interesting. But in my head, not if you come from faith, then you believe you're supposed to give back. But not everybody does that. Because if you don't come from faith, some people get the elevator to go up in life and forget to send it back down to help others. Some people also see God's hand in their lives and don't pay it back. I remember the story with Jesus Christ and when he healed, I think it was the 10 lepers or so.
Yes.
All of them went and only one came back to say thank you. So although you've realized to give back, not everybody will have that selfless nature to give back. So
yes, I credit this to the constitution of God in me. You know, if you don't have that constitution, which is God is love, he's a giver, he's caring, that I don't give in myself as Paul Nison, as a nature, I'm selfish.
Yeah.
But the Christ in me is a giver. So automatically, and again, I want to take this back. I don't give back, I give. I don't have anything to give. I just give. I don't give back by virtue of because I have. I give because I don't. And I don't lack because I'm a giver. And there's no giver who lacks.
That is true. I mean, it goes to the cardinal rule of being selfless. Don't give expecting to receive.
No. If I'm expecting something, I won't be here. Because you and I know New York. I was working in New York. I was working with Brandon. I was behind the scenes of Brandon for almost 4 years.
Oh, that's an interesting fact. People don't know that.
People don't know that because sometimes I keep it that way. I've worked with Brandon on his book, on this, behind the scenes, raise money in pandemic with him, you know, edits pictures and all that for him. And I learned so much from him. If that was my trajectory, I would stick with that because I was comfortable, bro, in New York. I was, you know, but to sacrifice the luxury of it and the things, your own personal career, you know, to be able to build this, you know,
and give back to your society.
Give to your society and people who did not have what you have. You know, it's a privilege on its own to be in that position that you could give to other people and you could pave the way. And again, I say this, I'm building a system. I'm not building a non-profit. I'm building a system which relies on giving, which relies on taking care of other people, which relies heavily on educating people in our continent.
All right. So can we get back to photography at its core?
Okay.
What's one photograph that stands out for you? Wait, before that, who are your favorite photographers?
Very hard. Very, very hard to pick favorite photographers because...
Okay, name three. Top three. Don't think about it. Go.
Brandon.
Yeah. Okay, one.
Who else? I have a friend, Ahmed.
Okay. Two.
Gabriel, who is very good. And Jessica Sarkodie is one of my favorite.
I love Jessica's work.
Jessica is one of my favorite photographers.
Funny enough, I also used to dabble in photography, and
I know
Jessica reached out to me back when Tumblr was a thing.
Man, your pictures were great.
It was just an outlet. You know, you're stuck at a job you don't like. There's Tumblr, there's an internet.
I remember you were I think there was a workshop. The photographer, the Ghanaian photographer in London, James Bano.
Yeah.
You were part. I saw that picture.
Yeah,
you were part, right?
Yeah. It was at
Nubuki.
Yes, Nubuki.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
It wasn't just me. It was me and a few.
Bob Pixel,
of blessed memory,
all
and
that.
then Francis Kokoko.
Yes. Yeah.
Francis and I go way back. We actually went to neighborly boys' schools. So I was in a disco. He was in Infante. So I've known him for a long time. So Jessica's work is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm so proud of her growth, seeing where she started from.
Yeah.
So that's
so these are a few photographers. I really. So I'm also, I'm a visual person. I read a lot, and I came to understand that our brain copy. That's what it does. It's just a copying machine.
You just feed information.
Feed information. So I'm very careful on people I follow on Instagram, and people I watch their work.
Okay.
Because that becomes me as well.
So those are the evils of social media. We'll talk about it. So, okay, well said. What kind of photography do you enjoy?
Documentary. I run documentary through every aspect of my photography and my journey. So documentary is one of my favorite in terms of the genres. Yeah. So even if I'm doing advertising, I'm doing in the principle of documentary.
Okay.
If I'm doing wildlife, I'm doing in the principle of documentary.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Documentary and what else? Or is just documentary for you?
Just
second. You don't have a second favorite? Sports.
People don't know I do a lot of sports.
Sports photography. Okay.
I don't share.
Do you play any sports?
No. I don't. I do also wildlife.
Okay.
I have a whole portfolio of wildlife. I've never shared with anyone. So I'm actually doing a long-term project on.
Why are you not sharing? The world is missing out on your talents.
Because now I'm kind of taking a break from my personal career to build this and advance this. So when it reaches a certain level, then I'll come back to photography. So right now, even now, we're building a system. We're building retraining. We're hiring more people. Right, so that we can be able to build the system, and if we get there, we'll be able to now switch into the photography and filmmaking as well.
Okay. So with your knowledge in photography and visual arts, what would you tell a young photographer who would be looking up to you?
Be patient. It's not about the technical skill. Be patient. And be focused. Okay. Focus and be patient. I always say that I know where I come from, I know who I am, and I know where I'm going. Nothing else outside this region will keep me distracted, because I know where I come from. So I'm grounded. The things were not handed to me on silver platter. I didn't grow up in a privileged environment in a certain sense, and I know who I am, how I've grown up to my level, and what I have become personally, and then also I know where I'm going. So that is why I don't get myself involved in certain things. Okay. That is why I'm so focused. Even as of now, I read 62 books a year. I'm just always reading. I pick a topic on economics. Now currently I'm reading on economics, and then just read. Because again, being patient and focused, you need to learn also. Because sometimes people think about photography in just the technical aspect, but there's so many elements around it that you need to be able to be successful, which include the critical thinking. So we teach that here. We teach entrepreneurship, critical thinking, innovation, and the aspects of the photography. So I think that to be able to grow to become an impactful photographer, these are some of the things I think a young photographer. And again, I'll tell people, a young person looking up to me, learn from me, be inspired, but be you. Okay. Because there's not all the things I can tell you. It's not all the pain points I can tell you. It's not all the struggles I can tell you, right? And there's not all the privileges I have behind the scenes that I could tell you. If I could tell you that and give you the recipe, my recipe was that go find Brandon Stanton of Humans of New York.
Yeah, but the chances of that happening are very low.
So you have to find yourself. Yeah. My path is different from your path. That's why I don't do motivational speaking. Because the motivational speaking is to puff you up. And then what's next?
But then some might argue that motivational speaking works. It works like placebo medicine. It just opens your eyes to opportunities, or it makes you confront the inner beast within yourself.
I don't.
It's just fluff.
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
It's like lust. It's easy to touch, never enough. Jay-Z said that.
Yeah. Wow, Jay-Z quotable.
Right? Yeah. That's it. You get puffed up. Ooh, yes. Then when you hit the wall,
that's it.
All the motivational speak means nothing. And again, for generation of Ghanaians, we've been listening to these Western motivational speakers. But the Western motivation speakers and other things didn't tell you there's something called credit card.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you there's something called student loan. Here we don't have a student loan.
Access to capital.
It's access to as much. So their system is different. And for me, my path is different. I had Brandon, and I still have him.
Yeah.
So that's my cheat code. He sits on my board. He helps me. He can buy a plane ticket and come here and come and teach. I have incredible friends who support me, right? Yeah. So that is my path. So you have to find your path, your village, your community.
Your network.
Your network. I cannot give you my recipe and work on you. My path is completely different, but be inspired. That's why I named the institution Dikan, means take the lead. I'm taking the lead to solve problems. So if you're inspired by my approach and the things, sometimes people don't believe it, but I'm saying one of the people who inspire me most is founder and CEO of Tesla.
Of what?
Tesla.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Yeah, he inspired me a lot.
He's a controversial being.
Yes, but he inspires me a lot. Why? Because he has this principle, first principle. And that is the principle we use. It's an ancient Greek principle of breaking things down into pieces and rethinking of how to build them. So those principles alone helps me. You know, for example, I'll give you an example. When I came to Ghana, I got this property and I gave an architect, I brought in an architect, did some drawings for us to be able to build it, to renovate the space and other things, and we set the code to contractors. And everybody said, oh, you need a certain amount of money. Then I, based on first principle, I said, what goes into this renovation? That's so expensive. Then based on that principle we only use 25% of the said money they quoted.
Yeah.
You get the point. So for me, those are some of the things I picked from other industry. One of my favorite person also is Howard Schultz, Starbucks.
Yes.
Again, everybody has his controversy or whatever, but his principle of how he evolved Starbucks and how he built Starbucks, that you go in not just for coffee, but different experience. So these are places I pick my sources and influence.
So you look, what you're telling me, and I've seen it happen for other people is, and I also tell other people I do the same in my personal development and stuff, is to look outside your given industry for inspiration. You know, you're an artist, don't draw. don't look to other artists for inspiration. Go outside and listen to music. That could inspire you. So what I'm hearing is more or less the same thing.
Yes. I read a lot. Like sometimes it's too much because I want to pick inspiration from other places, okay. Right? And that is, people say, "Hey, you know, you're 7 months old."
Yeah, 7. Oh, yes.
7
months. I
months.
came to the opening.
Yeah, in December.
Yeah, in December, yes.
Yes, 7 months old.
Nice.
And the things we've achieved, we don't announce majority of the things.
Yeah.
Because we build them for a long period and we announce. But the things we've achieved over this short period of time, now we are 16 staff.
That's
we'll
wonderful.
End the year with 24.
That's wonderful.
So you can see the progress of things because I build these things from other places. I read books on economics. I have to understand because I'm building an ecosystem on visual education. So I have to understand. You know, I just ended management training. I'm a photographer.
Yes.
You know, I ended the management training on business execution. And then I'm going to go to London again to do another management training on cultural archives and all those things. Right. I'm learning from every aspect. I'm a very non-conventional person. I try to learn from people who are not in the industry. And I think also that influence also came from Brandon as well. He's very unconventional, and I think
outside the box.
Think outside the box, because people came to New York to be street photographers.
Yes.
They never considered writing as part.
Yes.
And he evolved that.
He's an OG.
Yeah, he changed the whole.
He changed the landscape. I mean, with the storytelling and giving the voice to the voiceless, because you read stuff about people going through addiction. You read stuff about people going through financial problems. Like Humans of New York was a page where you can find
the regular stories.
Yes. Regular stories from regular folk. And it was just a wide spectrum of people. Even regular folk, you can find some privileged people.
Yeah.
Just everybody. It's like a buffet. You just go there, pick what you need, and then leave. So that's amazing.
And it works in New York, right? Because you and I we've been talking about our lives in New York and how different it is. How do somebody asks you, how are you? Have you eaten this morning? So he, being who he is, to ask random people every single day. That brother is hardworking. Yeah. He wakes up every single day, go get stories. Rain or shine, snow, for 12 years. He's raised more than $30 million for people.
And that's the compounding element of hard work. You know, it's not gratifying instantly. But each and every day you add some. Before you know,
it's a whole thing.
And
he's very, working with him was amazing. You know, Humans of New York, at the time I was there, it was just 2 of us.
Oh,
there's no whole army.
Yeah.
He's not in social media. He doesn't have a team. It wasn't a social media expert sitting somewhere. You know, it was recently when he was doing a documentary, he had an office. We all used to share the space. It was always home. But he wake up every single day, rain or shine, to go and interview someone and to photograph. And again, rejection. In the beginning, he got more rejection. Now he had, at the point, in the early days of Humans of New York, he had more following than Kim Kardashian.
Yes, because
because that tragedy, everybody was in that sense. And how do you even sustain a model for 12 years and still be relevant?
Yeah.
And still produce the books and still produce the story. He's currently working on a long form story. It was going to be amazing. I love that story.
What do you think of social media now and photography? Is it helping or is it ruining traditional photography and social media?
It depends. Again, it's relative, right? What is the help? What is the not helping? Now, it's easy to access more photographers and more visuals than ever before. It's easy because if back in the days, Brandon would not have a space because the channel of distribution was the New York Times, the National Geographic, and then one person controls that channel. But now it's breaking down. Everyone can have a share of it. Yes. Everyone can have that accessibility. Now the portfolio is the Instagram. As a curator, when I'm looking at that, so I constantly advise photographers, don't be posting pictures in your professional page, pictures of your girlfriend. I don't want to see that. I want to see your work. Because sometimes I get requests, of helping for people asking, hey, can I get a photographer in Ghana who can be part of this exhibition or who can be part of this program? When I go to your Instagram, I'm not going to send a message to you. I'm just going to check your website, your social media, and even know you, who you are. So it's apparent that photographers, be careful on what they post, because I've shared so many photographers to galleries, museums, and other people who reach out to me, curators, and instantly they look and say, no, not this guy. Why? Maybe probably his work is great, but maybe the things he posts over there, because that is your portfolio, that's your CV, you know, in that sense. One of the photographers who's very great in branding his social media and his things is Carl. It's one of the young photographers, very good. Very, very good. He's very critical about his page and how he brand, and you as well. Back in the days, I used to look at your pictures a lot.
Oh, wow.
I bookmark it because your pictures were different and unique.
That's evolved. Because I wasn't just like you. I wasn't focused on technical abilities. I wasn't focused on ISO and shutter speed.
Who cares?
No, but some people care a lot about stuff like that.
But
because I'll reach out to other people. Here, take a look at my work and let me know what you think. And then they would analyze it from a technical standpoint.
Yes.
You know, the light is here. Did you use what's that thing called? The thing that a light meter. Did you use a light meter?
Who cares?
What is that? Like a light? I know what it is, but it's not something I'm interested in. You know, I'm going with a feeling.
You know, Brandon, for the longest time till I met him, he used to shoot auto.
Oh, is that so? That's interesting.
You see how surprised you are?
I am surprised. Yeah.
The number of people consume his story, the number of people consume the pictures, don't even know what ISO is or light meter is. It's recently that I convinced him to shoot RAW. He shoots only JPEG for years.
Because eventually, if you look at it on the phone screen, it doesn't really matter if it's RAW or JPEG, unless you're blowing it up into like a billboard. But if it's on a phone, you know.
No, so for me, I don't think that photography is just centered around the technical aspect. People get it wrong because it's peer-to-peer review, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, your ISO, why can't you bump your ISO up? But the question is that, is the picture good? Is the picture telling the story?
Yeah.
So for me, in particular, I went to two schools. I always say that. I went to the School of Humans of New York and the School of ICP. And the ICP will tell you, you have to stick to this traditional thing. You know, this the thing, this is the ethics, this is that. And I went to Brandon, and Brandon go to the street and take pictures and share the stories, and people are more engaging. So I was taking, when I used to work with him, I was looking at the engagement on Humans of New York versus New York Times.
Yeah.
But and it was different.
It's funny you would say that, because that's why people don't really like graduate school and art school and stuff like that. You know why? Because they feel that there's a saying that those who teach can't do. That's why they teach. Because if you think of all the great artists we know, Da Vinci, what school did he go to?
Yeah.
All these other people, what school did they go to? You know, wasn't it Henri Cartier? All these great artists you can never think of. It was just pure art. There was nothing else to it.
Yeah, it's true. I have some of my favorite books here. There was a lady who, Vivian
Mayer.
Yeah,
I love her work.
You know, she was a house help also.
She was a nanny. She used to take care of
nanny.
Kids. Yes.
And you know, her pictures, she never published it till she passed away.
Till she passed,
and that's my favorite book. Do you know why?
I have that book as well.
I have 3 of them all here.
Vivian Mayer. I love Vivian Mayer's work.
Yep, I have all 3 here. And so she captured these images with no intent to do anything with it. And that's the raw, pure form of it itself.
Because she listened to her soul based on what her soul and spirit was telling her.
Yeah, so I'm teaching here at the full-time program. I'm teaching seminar for photojournalism and documentary.
Perfect.
And then one of the courses we're doing is sources and influence.
All right. So let's talk about running Dikan itself as a business entity. Yeah. What has that experience been like? What is the most notable experience for you?
Managing people. managing people.
There's no school for that, is there?
There's no school for that. There's no science for that. You know, when I started Dikan, I used to be bothered. It's like, am I the problem?
Yeah.
What can I do for these people? Like, I was doing everything, salary. I was fighting to get them the best salary possible, benefit, everything. But you get some people who just just won't, they don't have any desire to help in any way, right? And they'll leave. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was trying to do everything to keep them, to keep the team together. We are family here, very knitted together. So it's like, oh, somebody comes in and, you know, and I was bothered. Then I got help to say, it's so normal. Welcome to Ghana. I said, wow. You know, so now I'm critical on how I hire, who I hire. You know, I hire character and I train skill.
Okay, perfect.
You know, I want people who...
Because you can teach skill, you can't teach character.
You can teach character.
Yeah.
And then here, we have people who are never given the opportunity. I have my staff, 80% are women. I'm critical about that. People who have never given opportunity, but they can. My executive assistant, Akusia Boatin, incredible young lady. You know, she used to work with father, came to work with me, and I gave her every single opportunity, every single privilege she could ever think about. Recently, she got a grant. She, under my leadership, she wrote a grant and won the grant. You know, so for me, those are some of the things I have been learning on the job, and it's very difficult. My brain is always functioning, and I need a time to stop, just stop. You know, and meditation, I love the beach. I love the beach. And be able to go there, calm, and just focus on that.
Well, you're fortunate because that's
right here. So
that's right next door.
So sometimes I remove my shoe and go for a beach walk around.
You're fortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I also know you're a father.
Yes.
What are some of the biggest joys and challenges for fatherhood?
Whew.
We can start with the joys. Let's do the
Joys.
good before we get to the bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's just joy to be a father. It's one of the greatest joys in my life, to be a father, that a human being, I'm responsible for a human being and her well-being. You know, so yeah, that is one of my greatest joy. And to see that my daughter looked to me, that my daughter, you know, will one day become who she want to be, and to be able to build my life such a way that I could spend time with her.
Perfect.
That is one of the greatest things. And the other side is
the learning curve.
The learning curve, you know, my daughter is a she.
Yeah.
So it comes with a lot of learning, a lot of adjustment, a lot of because some of the times, right, that we go to school for certain things, but we don't go to school to become a father. Nobody pay attention to teachers. People go for marriage counseling, but nobody talks about being a father or being a parent. So you have to learn on the job. You make a lot of mistakes, but still you keep learning.
So, well, thank you, Paul. It's been such a wonderful conversation. I want to know what's next for Dikan.
What's next for Dikan? Dikan is going to be one of the most impactful visual education institutions in Africa. And now we have so much coming up. So now let me explain what Dikan is doing right now. So Dikan is a visual education institution at core. The library supports every visual education program and resources we provide for people, students and outsiders. We have the gallery, which is the distribution outlet of photographers and filmmakers to be able to share their work and also represent photographers. So now we represent Bob Pizzle, whose work we have in our archives and promoting. So we're going to have exhibitions across the world with his work and other photographers' work. Then we have the education, which is the full-time program, Dikan Academy, and workshops.
Okay.
And then we also have the Story Lab, which is storytelling and innovation, how to use innovative tools and resources to be able to amplify stories and think critically about it. And then we also have special programs coming up in December, movie screenings and all that as well.
Okay.
So we're thinking about even photo festivals. How do we even bring this in a big platform for Black people, for Africans and all that? So yeah, this year, we're going to end this year very strong. We have a lot of things coming up as well. And we just opened our full-time program We had application of 174 people apply.
Wow.
We were only able to take, our capacity is limited to 10 people.
10 people?
Yes.
Wow.
So it was very tough to be able to have that. And I'm grateful with my team and the support and the people who continue to support us. And there are so many programs coming up next year, which we are working, incubating to be able to expand to the various levels.
Oh, all that sounds amazing. And I'm terribly proud of your growth.
Thank you.
I mean, seeing where your trajectory has put you so far. And we're grateful to have people like Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. You remember, I want to remember you something. When I was in New York, you posted a book.
What book was that?
You posted a photo book on your page. And I reached out. That was that's
how you reached out.
Yeah.
Because I collect photo books. I collect books, but I love photo books. So I try to, when I'm here, I'm like, what can I steal? I look around.
Go on the other side.
I try as often as possible, but it's an expensive habit.
Oh, tell me.
It's an expensive habit as well. It's an expensive habit. So not only am I proud of this space, I'm jealous of this space as well, in a good way.
You're always welcome. You're teaching here, right?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully.
So
if God gives us tomorrow,
Amen.
I'm ready to do it.
Amen.
I'm ready to give what I know.
Yeah.
Because when I started, I wish people had been more direct with me.
Yes.
Nobody wants to tell you how they did it.
Yes.
Yes. So that's the whole mantra behind this podcast.
Yes.
I just want to know how people did it, what inspires them, and stuff like that. Not everybody would have the access. For example, I have to you.
Yes.
So if you can get that access to a click of a button, that's the best thing ever. So perfect.
Thank you so much.
You.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.